I'm back. It is. That's because it's Sunday night again. I'm with you. I'm Mark Meckler. I'm your host for the BattleCry on Sunday night. Kind of recap last week's news, talk about what's going to be happening this week. And mostly, always, we hang out together and we talk about what grassroots activists can do. Because that's really what it's about, right? Nobody in Washington, D.C. is going to save the country for you. I can promise you that. Nobody in Washington, D.C. is going to save the country for you. If you look for leadership in Washington, D.C. or from politicians, what do you see? Who's got a plan? Is there anybody out there telling us what the plan is? I do see a bunch of Republicans wailing into the darkness, wailing into the wind, right? Screaming and yelling about all the bad things, maybe that they think the Democrats are doing it, that the left is doing today, wailing about woke culture, wailing about HR 1, wailing about all the spending. What do? Nothing. What's their plan? I don't see one. I haven't heard one, right? A lot of complaining, no plan. They're not telling you what you can do. They're not telling me what I can do. So what's the plan? I mean, I think it's fundamental that you and I know what the plan is. And if you look, I'm just going to be frank. I get mailers from all these organizations like Convention of States, and I'm looking for what is the plan? What can we do? What are they proposing we do? And again, they're wailing into the wind, screaming and yelling and lamenting. Oh, what's going on in Washington, D.C. is so horrible. The Democrats took over the White House and took over Congress, and they scream about election fraud, et cetera, et cetera. They wail into the wind, but I don't see a plan. And I'm frustrated by the lack of a plan. Convention of States has a plan. You guys know that. We have a long-term plan. See, because we understand elections are not enough. They're not enough. If 2020 didn't tell you that, I don't know what will tell you that. It's not enough to just fight to win elections. Now, I want to be really clear. I am saying you should fight to win elections. We should go out and do everything we can to prevent election fraud. We should get reform in all the states where we can get reform. You should be pressuring your state legislators to give you the reform that we need. You should look at what Florida is doing to reform, even though they had a clean election. Right? We should look at states where the elections were well run, at governors who are leading the way, and we should push ballot integrity and election reform. We need to make sure that we have voter ID laws in all the states where we can. No, they're not voter disenfranchisement. By the way, this is just an offer. If anybody knows anybody that can't get an ID for some reason, I'll go with them. Literally, I mean that genuinely. I'll find a way to get there, and I'll take them to the DMV or whatever it takes, and we'll help them get a voter ID. I've never heard a single case of a real person who was unable to get voter ID. Like, you need an ID to get a library card, right? You need an ID to buy alcohol. You need an ID to cash a check. You need an ID to walk into your bank and get money out of your bank. The idea that somehow people can function in society and they can't get an ID, it's ridiculous. It's actually offensive too. They point at inner city communities, communities of color, and say those people especially are incapable of getting IDs. And by the way, if you go into one of those communities and ask them, is it difficult for them to get an ID? It's pretty offensive. It's derogatory, really. They can handle getting an ID just like you can handle getting an ID. This is because this narrative of how feeble the American people are comes from the government. They want you enfeebled. I mean, here's a great example. This week, Joe Biden told us in his first national primetime address, which was a joke. I think I slept through it. I know he slept through it. Biden actually said that he believes that by July 4th, you and I might be able to get together with a few friends, maybe have a hot dog or a beer with our friends, with a few friends, a small group, right? He fundamentally misunderstands America. What do you think about what crosses your mind when you say that? I'll tell you what crosses my mind. No, I won't actually, because I can't say it because this is a family program. I can tell you what I think generally, which is pound sand Joe Biden. Take a hike. You're not going to tell me and my friends what to do. I live in Texas. I don't live in DC. I'm not under your thumb. And frankly, the people in DC aren't under your thumb either. And we'll do what we damn well please on the 4th of July. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to get together. We're going to have a big old party. We're going to set off some fireworks. We're going to drink some beers. We're going to celebrate American greatness. You can hide out in the White House and pull the shades. you can celebrate Joe Biden's cowardice, because frankly, that's what you are. And how dare you tell the American people they can't get together on the 4th of July and do whatever they damn well please. It really shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be American. What are Americans, cowards? Is that what we are? Is that what we do? We just hide out. We're scared. I see people walking down the street, literally, as I drive around, people walking down the street with masks on. People riding scooters with masks on. They're alone on the street. What are they scared of? The COVID swarm? Like, is it going to swarm and fly around their head and attack them? Is that what Joe Biden thinks is going to happen at a 4th of July barbecue? No, we are damn well going to get together. We're going to hang out together. We're going to celebrate the independence, the courage, the bravery that made this nation what it is. And Biden, just like you cowered in your basement during the whole election, you can feel free to continue to cower in the White House on the 4th of July. But real Americans will be out there celebrating. Another person who I think should go cower in a basement, and maybe he should be in a prison cell, is Anthony Fauci. And this is a guy who burst onto the American scene, the public scene, as America's most trusted doctor, right? And then he said, you should wear masks. You shouldn't wear masks. You should wear it. You shouldn't. You should. You should wear 2. You should wear 5, 10. Like, it's just everything. So many different things. He's been on every side of every issue over and over. The man has no public legitimacy. And here's the latest. He says that Trump should encourage his followers to get the vaccine because his followers listen to him and they'll get the vaccine if he says so. Fauci, Tony, buddy, who gave us the vaccine? Who started Operation Warp Speed? Who pushed this thing so hard like no president ever before in American history? Who gave us the fastest vaccine in American history? I'll tell you who gave it to us. President Trump. President Trump and a lot of other people who worked with him, who worked at his side, who worked behind the scenes. You know who else gave it to us? Somebody that the left loves to hate. Big Pharma. That's right, Big Pharma, these giant pharmaceutical companies that we all vilify. Trump, in conjunction with these big pharma companies, in conjunction with some folks in the military, some top scientists, gave us the vaccine. And Fauci is now saying, oh, Trump has to encourage people to get the vaccine. As if Trump never talked about the vaccine, as if Trump never had anything to do with the vaccine. It's unbelievable. These people have the shortest memories, or, and I think it's the latter, are the most dishonest people in American history. Biden comes into office saying there's no plan. Biden bragging about how we're doing 1 million vaccines a day. By the way, we were doing 1 million vaccines a day when Biden took office. Biden, who says he's going to have 100 FEMA centers set up all over the country to give the vaccine, who's managed to stand up 7. That's not leadership. That's absolute failure. Trump brought us the vaccine. Trump led the way in Operation Warp Speed. Fauci is a liar and a loser. You know what Fauci did? Here's what Fauci's good at. Back in 2014, in order to get around a ban on funding research on viruses just like this coronavirus, viruses that are called gain of function research, this research that he wanted us to do, there was a ban in the US on that research. So he made sure that he got funding to the Wuhan lab for that research, the lab where the virus likely escaped from, to give it to you and everybody else in the world. Right? That's Fauci is responsible for this. He's on national TV. He's a hero. People are lighting votive candles with his image on it. They're wearing t-shirts. There's ice cream named after Fauci. Honestly, the guy should probably be in prison, not on television telling us what we ought to do. All right. This week in politics is going to be a really serious, really difficult, really dangerous week. Because what we're looking down the barrel of is HR1 or S1, which I don't even, they call it the We the People or For the People Act or something. It's actually the DDA, the Destruction of Democracy Act. They're going to destroy our election system. They're trying to ensconce everything that is wrong with elections in the United States of America today and make it permanent and shove it down our throats from the level of the federal government. That's their plan. Shove it down your throat. You want voter IDs and laws in your state? You should have them in every state. Nope, they're going to make that go away. You think there's incredible opportunity for fraud around mail-in balloting, universal mail-in balloting? You're right about that. There is. There's tons of opportunity for fraud there. So you know what they're going to do? Universal registration, universal mail-in balloting in every state. Let's open it up, right? Let's have absolute total opportunity for as much fraud as we possibly can. This is what they're saying. Take away all the control over elections that the Constitution intended to give to the states. One of the great features of our election system is very hard to rig from the top down. And why is that? Because every state has their own control. Localities have their own control. Counties, precincts have their own control. They're trying to take that control away and put it at the level of the federal government. This is really bad stuff. They're trying to prevent redistricting. There's all kinds of garbage in this thing that is so dangerous. Here's another one most people aren't even talking about. As part of the Death of Democracy Act, or the Destruction of Democracy Act, what they're doing is they're going to make it so that organizations like ours have to reveal their donors publicly. Now, why is that bad? People talk about dark money. They're scared about quote unquote dark money. It's important that we remember that privacy is for people and disclosure or transparency is for government. I mean, this is the truth. And so it's not that donors should have to reveal their identities. The government should be transparent, not you. If you want to be private, if you want to give money privately, you should have the right to do that. And they're trying to take that away. And you know why they're trying to take that away? They're trying to take that away because they want to be able to harass conservative donors. They want to be able to go after people like you who give money to organizations like ours and humiliate you so you won't give that money in the future. So donors won't give money to conservative organizations in the future. They're also trying right now to stack the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. The Federal Election Commission is supposed to be nonpartisan, unbiased, equally balanced between the parties. There are suggestions right now that Joe Biden stack the FEC. What do you think would happen if Joe Biden stacked the FEC? Do you think it would be fair? Do you think it would be down the middle? Do you think it would be equal? Or do you think they would come after conservatives and Republicans? Do you think they're going to try and make it impossible for people like me, God-fearing, Bible-thumping, gun-toting, Tea Party kind of Republicans, guys like me, they're going to make it impossible for us to participate in the election system? That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take away our free speech. They call it HR1, the For the People Act. No, it's the Death of Democracy Act. You can't forget that. And you have to go hard on this. And you have to make sure your senators go hard against this. Guys like Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, Tester out of Montana, these are going to be critical votes. You got to hammer on them. We got to hammer on them. We cannot allow the death of democracy to take place on our watch. That's what they're trying to do to us right now. And you and me have an obligation to stop that. You got to make the phone calls. You got to send the emails. You got to be engaged. This is also why we need convention of states, because if they get away with it, the only way to fix it, the only way you and I are going to be able to reverse this is to take the power away from them. Not temporarily, but forever. And people are like, well, we'll win the House in 2022. Maybe we will. Maybe that would be great. And maybe the Republicans win back the Senate. Maybe the Republicans win back the presidency in 2024. Maybe then the Republicans are in control and then they'll do incredible things, right? Right? Maybe. Like repeal Obamacare like they promised they were going to do when they had the House and the Senate and the presidency, and they never did. They never even put it on the president's desk. If you're relying on Republicans to save you, then you have a death of democracy wish. Then you are you are suicidal for the Republic, because the Republicans aren't coming to save you. They're not going to answer the phone when you call. They like their power in Washington, D.C., just like the Democrats do. The only people who are going to save America, the only people that have a chance to save America are you. You're the only ones. I'm serious. This is a heavy burden. People understand this, and this is why we're seeing right now such an incredible surge in people joining Convention of States. One of the incredible things that's happened is that Facebook banned political advertising for a couple of months before the election in November, and then they just opened the spigot up on it a couple of days ago. So we've not been able to advertise on Facebook for months. They really cut us off. And in my opinion, it was intended to hurt conservative groups like ours. But much to their surprise and frankly, much to ours, there's been an incredible surge. And a lot of you come and signed up. You've gone to conventionofstates.com. You've clicked on sign the petition. You clicked on take action. You volunteered. You got involved. We've seen an incredible surge of activism all across the country. Why? Because people understand there's an existential threat. People understand that the country is at stake. You understand that the country is at stake. Your friends understand, your kids understand, your parents understand. The country is at stake right now. People lament everything that's going on, and I understand why people are frustrated and scared and concerned. Now is not the time to give up. You can lament, but be in the fight. Use it to motivate you to be in the fight. There is so much going on in Convention of States right now. Last week, we had a Wyoming vote. We won in the Wyoming House. We came out of committee. Last week, we had a Wisconsin vote. We came out of the committee. Now we're moving forward, right? In Wisconsin, in Wyoming, in West Virginia. I'll be in South Carolina this coming week. Looks like we're going to have a great vote in the House. 53 co-sponsors in the House right now, 23 in the Senate. It's incredible. North Carolina looks good. Ohio looks good. We got stuff going on in Pennsylvania. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on all over the country in COS because of you, not because of me. I'm one guy sitting here in front of a microphone, doing a Facebook Live now and then, traveling around the country. I'm one guy. You are 5 million plus. Now that means something. One guy with a microphone, you're 5 million plus with a lot of microphones, with a lot of Facebook pages, with a lot of Parler accounts, with a lot of Twitter accounts. You are the people fighting back against big tech censorship. You are the people that refuse to be silenced, that refuse to be canceled, that refuse to be unpersoned. That's who you are. And now, more than ever, that is incredibly important. This is an existential fight. You know, we've heard over and over my whole life, oh, this is the most important election in my lifetime. This is the most important time in my lifetime. We're past the election. Maybe it was the most important election in our lifetime. Seems like they all are. But one thing I can tell you for sure, absolutely, undeniably, we are currently in an existential fight for the country. It's on so many levels. It's on a cultural level, right? We've turned away from God. 60 million babies aborted in this country, all kinds of bad stuff going on. We pretend that men are women and women are men and both are neither. Got men going into women's restrooms. We got men competing in women's sports. We're wiping out the idea of actual biological gender. Thousands of years of culture and history being wiped from the map. People are losing their jobs for saying they don't believe in that stuff, for not professing the woke line. The cultural cleansing is going on. The great silencing has begun. People are scared to say things. You know, because I took over as the CEO of Parler, I hear from a lot of people in the tech industry. There's a lot more conservative and libertarian people in the tech industry than you might think. And they're in hiding. They've been hiding for a very long time. They're underground. They don't say the things they believe. They don't let people know they go to church. They don't let people know they have more traditional values, that they believe in the greatness of America, that they celebrate the 4th of July, that they stand and sing the national anthem. They can't say those things in the woke culture of Silicon Valley, in the woke culture of the tech world, but they're out there. And I know they're out there because I hear from them every day now. So there's a culture war that's on. There's a technology war that's on. We saw them target Parler, wipe it off the face of the earth. We brought it back. It's stronger than ever. It's here to stay. It's not going away. And it's going to stand there for you and for free speech. And when I say you, I want to be really clear. I don't mean you as a Republican. I don't mean you as a conservative. I don't mean you as a Christian or a religious person. I mean you if you believe in free speech. Because I believe in free speech, and I think free speech is the undergirding for all of this, right? Without free speech, there's nothing else. If you believe in gun rights, if you want to fight for life, if you believe in property rights, if you believe in freedom of speech, you have to be able to have freedom of speech to fight for that, right? Big tech wants to stop that. They want to take your government away from you. What we're seeing is the imposition, the actual real-time imposition of totalitarianism in America, fascism in America. I've been saying this for about 3 years now, and I'll be honest with you, I've gotten a lot of grief for it over the time. Grief from the left saying, oh, we're not fascist, and grief from people on the right saying, Mark, that's the language. It's too extreme. Really? You really think the Democrats are fascists? You really think people on the left are fascists? And the answer is absolutely, 100%. And I don't say that because I think they think that way in their hearts. Like they think, oh, we're going to be fascist. We're going to be totalitarians. I think that way because I understand political science. And I don't even think it's a science. I understand the study of politics, the historic study of politics. I understand what fascism is, what totalitarianism is, where it comes from, how it begins, how it develops, what it looks like. I understand its historical phases. And one thing I can tell you for sure about totalitarianism, it always comes very slowly into a society. Bit by bit by bit, it creeps into a society until it doesn't, until it explodes on the scene, until it's like a tornado sweeping across the land, destroying everything in its path and sweeping societies into the abyss of history. That's how totalitarianism works. And we're in the tornado phase. Make no mistake, it's been creeping and creeping and creeping and creeping slowly into this country for a very long time, and it has now broken loose in full form. I've said this before, and I'm going to repeat this a lot, and I hope you get it, and I'm saying it over and over because I want people to get this in their heads. Benito Mussolini, the dictator from Italy, the inventor of fascism, said that fascism was defined as everything inside the state, nothing against the state, right? Everything inside, nothing outside, and nothing against. And so I'll do that again, kind of mess that up there. Fascism is everything inside the state, nothing outside the state, and nothing against the state. Does that describe the American left today? Is it just me? I actually think that accurately describes the American left. They believe government should do everything. There's nothing that they believe should be outside government's reach, right? Especially the federal government's reach. Your health care, the paint you use in the house, the car you drive, what your clothes are made out of, what you can use in your yard, the pesticides you can use, et cetera, et cetera. Your toilet in some places, what kind of toilet you can have, how much water it can use, everything they believe controlled by the federal government. The minimum wage, your business, all the regulations, control everything inside the state. Nothing outside the state. That's the corollary, right? Even your worship. They prevented you from going to your houses of worship and worshiping as you see fit, according to your own beliefs, according to your level of security and safety, what you believe is okay. They've prohibited that all over the country, and they act like they're entitled to do that. Everything in the state, nothing outside the state. And this is where it gets terrifying, nothing against the state. And now we have the big tech oligarchy, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Amazons, and so on down the food chain, wiping people out, wiping companies out that don't speak the leftist orthodoxy, wiping out Dr. Seuss, wiping out cartoons, right? Because they don't fit the orthodoxy. It's fascism. Nothing against the state. The suppression of the Hunter Biden story, nothing against the state. This is what's going on. Everything inside, nothing outside, nothing against the state. This is fascism riding onto the scene like a tornado, wiping out everything in its path. The only question is, what will you do? I know what I'll do. I will stand and I will fight. I'll lead Convention of States. You're in it with me, and I appreciate that. A lot of you are standing and fighting. I stepped up to help Parler because I'm going to stand and fight, because I'm going to put my whole life into it. I'm going to put everything I've got, all of my time, all of my energy, everything I've got, because this is the last hope. The United States of America is the last hope. There's no other place on the planet that's protecting freedom of speech. There's no other country on the planet that has a First Amendment. Europe doesn't have a First Amendment. There's no fundamental protection for free speech in Europe. They've got hate speech codes. They're trying to impose them here. And so I will stand and fight. And when I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to look back and say, I did everything I could do. And your kids will judge you. And your grandkids and posterity will judge all of us and say, what did you do when liberty was at stake? That's what will happen through history. And they will either look back and say, what was it like when men and women were free? Or they will look back and say that people like us, people like you, stood and fought when it was all at stake. This is not a joke. This is not politics. This is not easy. This is an existential fight for liberty and freedom. History is a swinging pendulum. The pendulum swings back and forth and back and forth, and it swings between tyranny and really bad tyranny. Not tyranny and liberty, tyranny and really bad tyranny. It's very rare that we see liberty. America is unique. It's unusual. It's special. It's a miracle, in my opinion. And the question is, what will you do? What will I do? And what will we do together to defend it? I think we do whatever we got to do. All right, I'm going to go to questions because this is my favorite part because you guys are the best. Jordan Hoyt says, I've been looking forward to the BattleCry all week. I have a question for states that have already joined COS. What have they done to prepare for when the convention happens? Legislation, creating committees, et cetera. Jordan, yeah, they're doing lots. One thing they do is they tend to pass delegate limitation acts or delegate control acts. They talk about how they're going to select their delegates, how they're going to control their delegates. Some states are putting together packages of amendments. So be involved in that. But also, they're doing all kinds of other stuff. They're involved in election integrity reform, property tax reform, education reform. We are a self-governing organization, so we allow our states to decide what they want to be involved in. Most states where COS has already passed, their grassroots are involved in 2 or 3 other initiatives in any given legislative session. Lilith Leonard says, is Governor Abbott being sued for lifting the LISK mandate? Barely speak. Is Governor Abbott being sued for lifting the mask mandate? I'm not aware of him being sued for that. I am aware there's some litigation between Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, and the powers that be in Austin for imposing mandates that are no longer allowed. But I'm not aware of Governor Abbott in Texas being sued. But honestly, not a great governor. Pretends he's a conservative hero. He isn't. Joseph Cataldo says, whose idea was it to listen to Fauci in the first place? Unfortunately, Joseph, that was, in my opinion, a huge mistake by Trump. Trump elevated Fauci. He made him into a famous person. He should not have done that. I think that the guy that should have been the spokesperson on all of this stuff was Mike Pence. And unfortunately, they elevated Fauci. They elevated Dr. Birx. It would have been better off with Pence leading the way. Mike Young said, did you know Fauci is the highest paid federal employee at over $400,000 a year? That's twice as much as the president. I didn't know that, but I am not surprised. Let me see what else we got here. Rita Osha says, how will COS save America? Rita, the way it will save America is by taking the power away from the federal government and returning it to the states and the people. What makes America work is federalism. The idea that the states get to be laboratories of democracy. The people decide for themselves. You can vote with your feet. We need to go back to a system where the power is dispersed instead of centralized. That's how it will save America. Nicholas Flippelli says, I just joined COS in Virginia. What can I do? Nicholas, the most important thing you can do is go to the Take Action tab at conventionofstates.com, take action, and volunteer to be a district captain. Somebody will contact you. They'll get you involved and tell you what to do. Alex Gallimore says, how are we looking in West Virginia? Awesome. I think it's awesome. I love West Virginia. Love your speaker there. I think it's going really well. I'm going to be there soon. I think we're going to make it happen in West Virginia this year. Make sure you're involved, Alex. Sarah Peliquin says, do you believe we'll see a turnaround of the nation in our lifetime? Sarah, I do absolutely believe it, but I don't know for sure, right? I mean, I'm not God. I can't see into the future, but I believe we're seeing a resurgence of people like you, resurgence of people who are people of faith, a resurgence of people who believe in America. There is blowback against this madness. Roy Allen Teague Jr. says, how many states need to join a convention of states? Roy, that is 34. 2/3 of states is what the Constitution specifies. It takes 2/3 of states to call a convention. It takes 51% of the states or 26 states to pass something out of convention, and then 38 states to ratify. Somebody says, how are we doing in Kansas? We're doing great in Kansas. In fact, I'll be in South Carolina this week, and then I'll be in Kansas the following week because things are going so well in Kansas. I think we're going to get it done. Things are going really well. By the way, I keep getting questions about the t-shirts I wear, the hats I wear. I wear Defender gear. You can find all this stuff at defender-gear.com. If you put in all caps COS Action 10, you get 10% off. These guys are great, faithful people. They love our country. They love God. They make great gear. This is just DFNDR. On the back, it says faith, family, and flag or something like that. I don't know. I love all their stuff. It's what I wear more than anything else. All right, a couple last things. Pamela Sturr says, we have no choice. We have to do COS. Matt Davenport says, what's your favorite source of news? Right now, I would say it is number one, Epic Times, EPOCH Times, just straight up great news reporting. And, of course, my friend Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire. Love the Daily Wire. Love you guys. This is the Battle Cry Sunday night. We are out. We've done a half an hour. I will see you next week on the